All right, everybody, welcome back. I've got my good friend Steve Gitlin here. Steve, good to see you as always, man.
Hey there.
What's up? Hey, we want to talk a little bit about, I wouldn't say the state of America, but I think one topic that's always been fairly a sensitive topic and something that may work great, could be improved, but definitely want your take on this. For those that don't know what capitalism is, it's essentially an economic and political system, and it's operated by a private party as opposed to having that control within the states. So, Steve, do you have any initial takes, or what are your thoughts just on capitalism?
I think capitalism itself is a great thing. I love it. I think that it goes hand in hand with my love for the country and what we're
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm.
I think that initially, from the beginning perspectives of capitalism in America, they didn't see what it would become.
Sure.
And so now I feel like there needs to be a big reset and it needs to be reanalyzed because I would say this, my number one point is that the almighty consumer, is the only reason capitalism works.
Mm.
If we weren't here to prop up the system and make it go, then it would make the profits. But what's happened is the profits now are more important than the consumer. And so there's nothing there looking out for the consumer. It's all about profits and shareholders and greed and holding us down in many cases. There's a lot of people, American consumers, undervalued and financially unshielded. That's a no brainer.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the primary reason is, I mean, it's just money, right? Is it greed? Is there any other reason?
I think that it's a complex situation where nobody really wants to step up and be the one that's in a power position to suggest something just so outrageously different about how to come back at this and reset this in a way that values the consumers in America. But in all reality, this is something that the consumers of America, we're all united by being consumers. That's the
Mm-hmm.
one thing we all are here in America as capitalists. We're all consumers, but most of us consumers are they're just ignored. And if you don't like invest in stocks or what have you, I my contention is this. Initially, it would have been nice if when they started the stock exchange and all that, consumers should have invested a very small micro share for every American. There should have been a fund as an investment that just
Mm-hmm.
goes right in and it's handled privately and publicly by Americans, not the government,
Sure.
a a union, a consumer union, and we'll get into that. That's my solution. Now, initially, it would have been nice because then we would have been able to reward kids by giving them a stipend to open a business or go to school. We wouldn't be taking student loans that are greedy, high interest rates. We'd be able to fund our educations. We ourselves by just being taken care of as a small smidgen of what the GDP, gross national, we all know it's GDP. We just
Mm-hmm.
need a small smidge of that that's going towards consumer investment that grows our investment as consumers. You reward us, we're going to feel more like we're part of making this thing healthy.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, because ultimately, one thing that's glaring for me is, I'm in my 40s, and as we age, the retirement age consistently gets pushed to a higher number because
Right?
consumers don't have anything to fall back on. You got to keep working. SSI is drying up at I don't know when. I know there's going to be an increase. The young lady Christina I talked to in the last show, who works with seniors, discussed an increase in Social Security for our seniors, which is about an 8% clip. But that doesn't outrun inflation. I don't even know how useful that is. I think it's
A
powerful and
hundred,
it's helpful, but
it's like
it.
$120 now. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, but the only reason they get it is because the economy is so out of kilter
Mm-hmm.
that they had to give the increase. If they didn't have to give the increase, they wouldn't. My mom's a senior. Most of the people I work with, when I'm talking to all these customers of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what? Here's the thing: Okay, I have very simple ways. Why isn't there a federal lottery that's just going right into a consumer union investment?
Mhm.
Why isn't there each company that's in America, in order to join a stock exchange, in order to go public, in order to take consumer dollars in America before even taxes, before even government, micro shares should be automatically allocated to the consumer union, and it should be transparent, and we should all own it. And guess what? That to me is the biggest political party in the in pool weight and special interest. The consumer, that's us. That can be anybody. You
Mhm.
know what? I want the person that takes care of our children to have that investment as a child care worker. You don't have to get rich, and we don't have to destroy capitalism. I still want people to make good money if they want to go out and
Sure.
work, but on the tail end, they need to have a fallback plan, a cushion, a way of knowing that, hey, they're always going to have food, they're always going to have education at their fingertips, job training at their fingertips, healthcare at their fingertips. We could be paying for our own healthcare without ever involving the government, without ever involving businesses. The consumer union could easily pay for that for us all, and we could give it to ourselves through capitalism. Well, I'm
Mhm.
not asking for a handout. Let's go make that money.
Sure. Totally get
And
it. We You bring up a good point, which is what are we worth? And you and I talked a little bit off air about what is the true value or the worth of the American consumer. Can you talk a little bit about what you were talking to me about off air and what the true
so
value and worth of the American consumer is?
So when I sat down and looked at it, you can guarantee that most average consumers, okay, working middle class, are going to spend per person 50 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
And in a small town of 26,000 residents is just an experimental number. That's like $1.3 billion dollars.
Well,
That's all housing, transport, food. Um, but it doesn't take care of, it's not taking care of the retirement or the seniors. We could easily take care of our seniors with the outrageous profits right
mm-hmm.
now in the when you look at this recession. What do you know? The big power companies, the fuel companies, they're making outrageous profits.
Oh yeah.
Grocery stores, food companies, outrageous profits on our backs during our suffering. That's not how to treat a consumer.
Yep.
I want to go out and slap some hands and say, "Hey, pony up. You need to
Yeah.
take care of it too, because we made you rich. Now
Yep.
quit it."
Well, if
We
you
don't.
look at the barrel price, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but the
No,
barrel price, I just saw this recently. The price per barrel, there's a difference of a few pennies. The cost for fuel, it's purely greed. They are thriving.
we would
Or
love
were
to
Yeah.
blame people,
Mm-hmm.
but really, it's capitalism. It's profits. It's shareholders. None of those care about the consumer raping the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you know, and it's just despicable. But you know what? They're not going to ever step up and say, you know what, we were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Are they, Joe? They're
No.
not going to step up and say, you know what, you could easily step up and buy shares of stock. Well, I will tell you this, that is true. I believe in the stock market and things like that. But I also know this, for every person that's born in America, they are going to spend money and make you successful, whether they bought stock or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you don't care if they sleep in the street. You don't care what happens to them. You should care. You should care if they are highly educated and are going to spend twice as much as a consumer. And with the consumers union, I think us Americans could take this back, become a consumers union, and like a political party, unite at the money
Mm-hmm.
and start reinvesting back in, like having our own federal lottery. I mean, I could just go on with maybe that's another show.
It could
Is
be. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers there, but I think the short version, man, what you're getting at is someone's got to protect the people because the economy doesn't exist unless people put money into it. It's what keeps this circle revolving. Obviously, people can't stop and just suddenly stop spending money, but there does need to be someone intervene for what you're proposing to happen. What I mean, how would we even scale something like that? Like, how would that? happen.
Well, here's what happens is every American has a value, and we alluded to that, and I just assigned $90,000, and
Yep.
then I figured out we could get $90,000 into a transparent account for each and every American, and each and every American has to put in $5 to start. That wants in. We just start there, just like a social security card. It starts right there with $5. And then you're asked to put in $100. But guess what? We have a federal lottery. We have there's every company from now on going forward. If you participate in the stock exchange, if you're going to pay taxes, you got to put in something towards the consumers union. Because guess what? The consumers are going to stop using your products. And
Mm-hmm.
when we get enough people on board, we're going to be able to say, guess what? We can blow people down the road with sales if you don't want to sell us gas at a reasonable price.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's about power to the people. It's a grassroots thing. It's just common sense to take care of everybody and still do capitalism. I don't want social. I don't want anything else but what we have here. I just want to improve
Sure. And it seems like you would almost need a, I don't
it.
want to call it, I don't know if it's a political party, and maybe it is. I mean, it's a union. You would definitely need some, I would think some strong, powerful, outspoken folks with some reach to push that message. But I have to think that there's a lot of Americans that wouldn't disagree with that approach because it essentially becomes your money. They're already taking your money. They're not going
we're
to stop taking your money.
we're redirecting a portion of it to
Yep.
make sure it's going towards a fund that's going to take care of our kids, not have student loans and things like that. And guess what? I packaged this thing up. I sent to you. I sent it to President Obama's website, and I was hoping that they didn't think I was crazy or something. But
Steve, I don't think you're crazy. I think it's a great idea. I think mobilizing it and getting it into effect would be difficult, but at the end of the day, the spirit of this thing is lovely. It basically says, I'm already spending a lot of money. If I took a portion, almost like a 401k, but we pulled our money together and you knew it was going to the right place, that'd be pretty damn cool. That'd be pretty damn cool. Do you
you
think
log right,
what's that?
you log right on, just like a federal bank account, and
Mm-hmm.
see how it's growing and how your little portion stacks up and helps everything grow.
Sure.
It'll
Makes
snowball.
Do you think it would need to be probably based income based or maybe like a lump sum kind of just pulled amount or relevant to income, age, any other like descriptive factors you think that would need to be
I
put in
think that
place
everybody
or
can get in at whatever level they want to get in initially. Like a
okay.
dollar and $5 allows anybody to get in.
Okay.
That gets you in the door, and then $100. The next is your next step up. And I mean, when you start adding up, and I've got formulas that I really don't want to like go too digitally crazy
You're good.
on all this stuff. I've expounded this out to, how to exactly do this. You know what I mean? Without like begging for money. I'm not asking for handouts. This is stuff we already do.
Sure. Yeah, I
So
think it's the idea of pulled dollars, the whole strength in numbers. Like this isn't a great comparison, but when you think about like Groupon, the whole the whole strategy and business pitch for Groupon was pulled buying power so I can go to this merchandise or
boom.
go to this person that produces this merchandise and get a significant discount because I can sell X many and I get it in lump, I get it in bulk. It's almost like cutting out the middleman. I don't think it still works that way, but
You
that's what
ready?
Groupon Goods was. And it sounds a lot like this, but
It's
obviously more
I'll
so
give
for
you
future
another one
planning.
that'll really blow your mind where it's already kind of almost being done. The
Okay.
heart, the core essential, GoFundMe.
That makes sense. It
Yeah.
does.
It's a panic derived outcry of the
Mm,
same thing, the consumers who can't get taken care of any other way.
sure.
Because that's what the veteran lost his arm and he didn't have anything and wants to pay his hospital bill, um, or whatever. That's already being done. And the nature of the heart and the nature of things like that is what's going to make this thing work. And once we get somebody that is, able to run an honest, not a corrupt, but an honest consumers union, and it's something where people can be voted in.
Mm.
and a real board that's transparent manages it. And I also want to take, like, once we get a fund, I want team A to invest and team B to invest and compete against each other to try to outwork the fund. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I could go crazy on this.
No, you're good, man. You go crazy. We got a few more minutes, so you got as much time as you want. But you did answer one of my questions, which was when I talk about mobilizing an organization, you've got essentially a two-party system that exists, libertarian movement that's there, some non-associated, some heavy left, heavy right, slight left, in the middle, don't know, undecided. No one can seem to agree on anything. Can you think, and you don't have to know, but I mean, is there a person or persons that you would need, I think, a really powerful person to get that support? And I think if that happened and there was a transparent board, and
I'll
they
tell you
had,
right now, first name that popped into my head, if they walked up on this stage and said, "Damn it, this is how it's going to be. We're taking back the country. We're going to pay for ourselves." I think The Rock Johnson.
I'm gonna tell you the funniest shit ever. That's literally the name, and you're gonna laugh at this, and I can prove it. I can prove it. That name was on the tip of my tongue, and let me tell you why. And this is not a plug for my sports blog, but it's bozosports.com. We are big on wrestling and XFL. A blog, it's been up. It's been up. It's not new. You go look it up. I said today the reason the XFL will do better with The Rock and instead of Vince McMahon is because of Dwayne Johnson. And I said in that article, quote, if he ran for president, he would win today. And he would. So I could totally see that. And he could probably assign a good group of trusted people that would do it. Because he's as middle as it gets. He's as trustworthy as it gets. He's as likable as it gets.
If you
He's
ever saw
successful.
Ballers and how he kind of
Yes,
like
good show.
went against the the college
Yeah.
platform.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that right there to me is like the Rocky of that type of movement. And if
Yeah.
he stood up, he's the like Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point in time had
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
I could see that.
Yeah, Arnold had that pull.
Yep.
I'm sure there's others out there that they could jump right on. If Snoop said, "You know what?
I like Snoop.
I'm tired of this shit."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I can see it,
Okay.
man. Conceptually, the details, there's a lot to work out. And it sounds like you've done a lot of research and work on your end about this. I don't have those deets, but the conceptually, and again, the spirit of what you're talking about and proposing is good for people, good for the economy, and good for the quality of life, and it's sustainable. I mean, there's already a significant chunk of things that just get ripped out of your paycheck every 2 weeks. You don't really know where they go. You don't really know if you're going to get those in the end. Like the chances that SSI is a valid fund for my kids, probably not. Maybe they say it will be. I doubt it. It's gone. I got a 9-year-old and 18-year-old. Come on. I mean, by the time they hit that age, it's probably not even a real thing, but they will when they start working. They'll pay for that. So I'm curious if you think it's sustainable and could last if this something like this ever got up and going.
I think that not only could it last, but I think that it could make America, like, when we talk about superpowers and global powers and things like that, and how we're backsliding with education and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those things, I think that we have plenty of smart people that could easily, through this, take care of teachers, value the right people that need to be valued to really like put forward our best talents and grow people. Not only that, but that you're going to need that to help us get back into the next level of what we're going to do as a country.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't pick ourselves up, nobody's going to, Joe. I will say this. If I could get everybody that saw this to deposit $1 right now, and we got, 1 million people to put $1 in and called it the consumer fund, then I would suggest my next idea. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
have a board of people that were trusted people that would all say, "This is what we're thinking about doing. This is the next investment. This is how it's playing out," and just show it to America. Just put it right up there on the website, and it's every day. I guarantee you, just like the stock exchange, people would be more concerned about the consumers union than they were the Dow or anything else. Of course, you know what? I don't want to take away the power of the Dow. I want
Sure.
to grow the power.
Yeah, and that's more of a bet. That's more of a risky piece. And it's, if you bet hard on the stock market like I have, you're getting your ass handed to you. What you're proposing doesn't sound like you would hemorrhage money overnight. And it seems like a safer play as a place to invest your money. I wonder, I don't even know what the next step is. And, we'll get to that on another show. But if you thought about if this thing got moving, um, what do you think the ideal next move, from whatever you want to share? I know you've got some other behind the scenes stuff, but
You know what happens is I started looking at this and it was just so huge.
mm-hmm.
Okay. The concept that I started wondering if I was just freaking crazy or a megalomaniac. Okay. But I believe in the core of this. And it's like I think that if we built a website and we went around and found some CPAs and some credible people, Ernest and Young, some people to kind of watch what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We put out there, hey, we're building a consumers union. It's built on the backbone of taking care of Americans as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we could grow it like that. And just one step at a time, very transparently. And, the $1, the $5, the $100
Mm-hmm.
from us, those people want to kick it off. And everybody can work at a different level. Some people are going to work at the $1 and $2 level.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be people that they can get in the best way they can, but if they put in $10 and us heavy hitters that put in 100, we're going to carry the $10 people into a place they have never been, Joe.
That makes sense. I was gonna would it be, even though there's more pitching in different levels, do you think it'd be equal distribution over time? Is
I
that
think
something?
what happens is we're all trying to achieve a certain level just to keep the fund going
Okay.
and kicking and funded, and you want people to be vested at a certain level,
Mm-hmm.
and then you give them some things that they could do to get more vested in, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, you could either invest more yourself into the fund. You could get a degree, and
Okay.
we'll even help you with the education. Just complete, bring up your value as a consumer and as a worker in America.
Mm-hmm.
Give people incentives why we care about them being better today than they were yesterday, or that maybe they had a skill in one direction. But man, I wouldn't be scared to go get a job in a different field at my age. I'm 59,
Sure. No, I get
but
it. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you can't stray too far away from what works. You're in a comfortable spot. You're great at what you do. You're a good salesman. You're a great salesman. So obviously stepping away from that would be probably difficult and scary. Other questions, quick ones. I don't have a lot of time left. Awesome show so far. Salaries. Have you considered, it doesn't have to be The Rock, but if you had, obviously you're instrumental in it. Maybe you're running it. I don't know who's doing what, but if you had some face of this thing that is some, mega celebrity, say Elon Musk wanted to run this instead of buy Twitter, like, would that come from that fund? Because when I think about unions, I think of it not from a charity standpoint where charities only have to give like 8% of the money or something crazy and they net 90%, whatever. But when I think about unions, I do think, generally speaking, they're there for you. At least that's what they're designed to do. And I know most probably are. But these other underlying costs, is it a thing where the people that put in a little bit more, maybe they cover some of that, the costs, like the salaries and the expenses to run the business, so
so
that the little
anytime you
man
have
isn't
any
getting
business,
pooped
yeah,
on?
advertising is important and
Yeah,
marketing is an important part of that business. Even public awareness ads. You know what I mean?
sure.
So you marketing it, we got to be shrewd, but we also got to say, like, okay, look, probably you're worth this much on a commercial, Snoop. We're going to pay you half that much. We're going to vest you half that much.
Gotcha.
And you know what? I mean, I'm throwing out ideas,
No, it's
but
good.
I think also what happens is, hey, if we can show somebody like some of these personalities how we're trying to use this in a righteous way.
Mm-hmm.
We respect the consumer capitalist in America as opposed to religion or
Mm-hmm.
a political structure or whatever. We're just trying to forward that person's value and well-being in America. I think people got to get on board. I think there's just going to be people that say, you know what, this makes sense. We're getting in.
Well, and then also if you've got those people working for you that are making decisions or working with you or whatever their role is, I mean, ultimately those same people could obviously be invested in the union, so it'd be worth it for them, whether or not they take a cut. It's almost like paying someone in shares so you keep your costs down.
What I really would not want is the appearance of the greedy
The
bastard
elite. Yeah.
corporation CEO.
Yep.
I would rather pay a guy that was the mayor of like St. Peter's,
Sure.
you know what I
No, I
mean,
get it. Yeah.
or of something like that that
Yeah.
had common sense,
Mm-hmm.
to be a guy in for a 4 year term. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or it's something where we would have to hash out that kind of stuff. But I
Mm-hmm.
will say this: there's plenty of leaders that could easily step up and start this. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? I
I
think
agree.
it's got to be presented in a creative and fun way.
No, I agree. It's a big, big idea, man. It's the biggest of ideas. It's a really large idea. I have a lot of like small ideas. I wouldn't even know where to begin with this. It sounds like you've put a ton of time and research into it, and I think it's got legs. It takes a lot of people cooperating, and unfortunately, right now, and for probably ever, the Americans don't like to cooperate. But when you talk about money, I think that's a common language. Green is a color that everybody's good with. So,
That's what I'm saying. I'm
yeah,
saying that, hey, for all these years you've been disrespected and shit on, we're taking the power back.
makes
We
sense.
do recognize you as a consumer. We see you. We think you could be taken care of better. We're going to go ahead and start this up just like a credit union,
Mm-hmm.
just like a credit union, but it's a consumer union.
Got it.
And then we're going to do all kinds of marvelous shit once we get to a certain level.
I love it, man. Anything
Yeah.
else you want to add, buddy? I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that. And we need to follow up on this on another show later.
No,
Anything else you want to add?
I love that you're doing this stuff, man. I appreciate you inviting me, and I could add way too much stuff. So no.
We'll just do a second episode then. So, Steve, this is again my friend Steve Gitlin, former coworker and buddy. Um, Pleasure to see you, man. Thanks for jumping on.
Oh yeah,
We'll get this uploaded and it'll be online in the coming days, guys. It'll be on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the whole gamut. And
I'm
we will talk soon.
crazy.
Yeah, you're not crazy. Good to see you, buddy.
All right, man. Be good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
brother. See ya.
Bye.